Okay, class, so I'm gonna go through some of these with you. Some of them will start, some of them will work out till the end. I am not in my room right now because it's my prep, so I'm in the workroom. So if you hear the photocopy machine running and stuff like that in the background, we'll just have to ignore it and make the best we can of it. It's the space that I have to make this video right now and get it posted as soon as possible. So if we look at number 1 up here, it says the length of a rectangle is 3 inches more than its width. The perimeter of the rectangle is 30 inches. So when we're looking at a problem like this, right, there are 2 things it's asking us to find. We need to find the length and we need to find the width. So whenever there are 2 unknowns, that means that we're looking for something that has a comparison phrase between the 2 of them. So right here, right, we'll see this comparison phrase that tells us what the length is compared to the width. Right? We then said whenever we have a comparison phrase, we'll then define whatever we read second. So width is what's coming second in this scenario. So we'll say width equals W. All right, once we know that, then we just want to go through and do our basic translation. So length is what we read. So I'm just taking the stuff that's underlined and I'm translating it from the key terms that we looked at on Friday. So the length of a rectangle tells us to put equal 3 inches more than. More than tells us addition. It's width. So width we defined with W, so I'm going to fill that in with the W. So at this point, I now know that I have a rectangle, and I know that it has side lengths of W and 3 plus W. And since a rectangle has opposite sides that are the same, I know that these are my 4 sides of my rectangle. So if I'm talking about perimeter of a rectangle says to add up all of those sides. So if I add these all up, I have 1W plus another 1W, which gives me 2W, plus another 1W, which gives me 3W, plus another 1W, which gives me 4W. Okay, so that tells me 4W plus 3 plus 3, 6. It has to equal, right? It is 30. And so now this is something that we should be able to solve. So it says 4W is 24. And we'll get W equals 6. Now this one's nice because it just has blanks to fill in. So we know that for our width, we want 6 inches. Okay, for our length, we're going to take this 6 and we're going to plug it back in. So our length equals 3 plus W is now 6. So 3 plus 6 will give us 9 inches. And so for the length, we'll have 9. And for the width, we will have 6. So number 2, I'm going to start, but I'm not going to finish completely. You'll have to do the rest on your own, but let's start number 2. Number 2 says the length of a rectangle is 8 inches more than the width. The perimeter of the rectangle is 24. So again, we're looking for length and width. So we know we want the comparison phrase of what these 2 are to each other. So we have length here and we have width here. Okay. Whatever we read second, we are going to define first. So since I circled width and it's at the end, right, my width is going to be W. My length is 8 inches more than. So 8 more than W. Okay, so that's all the information I'm going to give you on that one. So try and follow the same thing that we did up here on number 1 and see if you can't get your length and your width from that. Number 3 then switches from length and width altogether. So now we're no longer talking about length and width. Sorry, hang on, I need to rearrange to make this fit. I have a book stacked up to make mine fit on here. Okay, so 3 is now no longer talking about a rectangle, but the concept is still the same, right? We have something with a story problem and we have 2 things that we need to fill in their missing values, which means we still want to go back to the concept of looking for a comparison phrase. So number 3 says a washer is $250 more than a dryer. Together they cost $1,350. How much do they each cost? So we're looking for 2 things. We're looking for a washer and we're looking for a dryer, right? Those are the 2 things that we need to define. And as soon as we know that we are looking for two things, we want to see if we can find a comparison phrase. Okay, so we want to see if it says what the washer is in relationship to the dryer. Well, the washer is $250 more than the dryer. Okay, so whichever one we read second, we are going to define first. So because dryer is second in that phrase, I'm going to make dryer equal D. Okay, the washer is tells us to put equals $250 more than is one of our key terms from Friday, which tells us addition. A dryer, which we defined as D. Okay, now this time it's not telling us perimeter, so we don't know anything about adding up all four sides. Instead, all we know is that we just have two things that together are $13.50. So together, right, we want that total price for both of them. So I want the dryer, which is D, right? So this right here is representing the cost of the dryer plus the cost of the washer. The cost of the washer is $250 plus D, right? This right here I'm taking from over here is the cost of the washer. And together I need those to equal $1,350. Okay, so I now have like terms I can combine. They're on the same side, so I want to use the same sign. So 2D plus 250 equals 1,350. I can start solving this. So that gives me $1,100. We'll then divide. And we'll get D equals $550. Okay, now that's how much the dryer costs. So in my dryer blank, I can fill in $550. Now I still need to find the cost of my washer, which I'll do by putting that price in for D. So my washer is going to be the $250 plus the $550. So $500, $700, $800. So my washer will cost $800. Okay, so then let's flip it over. Now I have a fold in my paper because I was stacking because of the books, but I think we'll be okay. Okay, so now we have some with consecutive integers. So if we look at number 4 says the sum of two consecutive odd integers is 76. So the sum, okay, sum tells me to add of two consecutive odd integers. So I have a pattern. I have multiple unknowns, but I don't have a relationship between the two of them, but I do have a pattern between all consecutive odd integers. So I know my first consecutive odd integer is going to be a number. I don't know what that number is, but it's going to be a number, and a number we always represent with the variable. Okay, my next consecutive odd integer is then going to be 2 more, right? Because odd integers count by 2. So now I have 2. I have 1 and I have 2, and the sum of them says to add them together which is equals 76. So I'm going to solve this. So 2n equals 74. And equals 37. Okay, now n equaling 37 isn't our final answer. That's just telling me what our starting number is. That was the first number. So n equals 37. But then I need the second consecutive integer to it, well, consecutive odd. So our next one will be 39. So 37 and 39 are our two numbers. Okay, number 5 is still 2, so I'm going to leave you to do that one on your own. It's very similar to last one. It's even, consecutive, even, so you should have a similar pattern. Number 6 says the sum of 3 consecutive integers. Okay, so the first number is just a number. Consecutive integers are 1 apart, so 1 more is going to be n plus 1. 1 more than that is going to be n plus 2. So I have 1, 2, 3 consecutive integers, and I want to take the sum of them. So I'm going to add those up. Is 126. And so now if I start to solve, n plus n plus n gives me a 3n plus 3 equals 126. Subtract that 3 off, I'll get 3n equals 123. Okay, so I'll get 41. But again, I need consecutive integers. So my first number is going to be 41. Sorry, I'm kind of going off here. My second number will be 42 because it's just consecutive, so one larger. And then my next one will be 43. Okay, you could check and see if that is correct by adding those three numbers together. Okay, but we should end up back at 126.